welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro, and of course, I'm joined by Marlene Royal. Hey, Marlene.
Hi, Rebecca, and hello to our Faster Masters Rowing Radio audience.
Great. It's August. August is a turning point in the rowing year, in the rowing calendar. And today we've got a couple of different topics. The first ones focus on races, because we know quite a few of you are still racing. And then we have a little bit of work on how to get video and get video analyzed. And we're going to spend a bit of time on that later on. But let's kick off here by talking about race day and race day eating. Marlene, when does your race day eating plan actually start?
Well, I would recommend starting to think about it and take some measures the week before your race. And you don't want to make big changes in your diet, but you might want to start reducing some fiber just so your digestion is easy. You might want to reduce a little bit of calories because your training load is going to be lighter if you're tapering. And so you definitely don't want to gain weight the week before your race. So just being careful with your eating, and just staying I think on the lighter side of things. And the day before your race, this is kind of when things start to kick into action, and I think where you start to have to be much more attentive. So I would say, start taking a little bit more carbohydrate in, because you want to make sure for race day, especially if you're going to be racing multiple races, which you would be if you're at a Masters National Championship. Start reducing the fiber, take in a little bit more carbohydrate the day before your race. So this could be things like sweet potatoes, yams, bananas, more fruits and vegetables, things that are easy to digest. You do want to keep some protein in there as well. And you might, but again, maybe keep your diet a little bit on the lighter side and favor fish such as salmon or haddock. And that way you'll get some protein and fat mixed into your diet, but focus on the carbohydrates. Eat at your normal times so that you're not really making radical changes to your diet. The day of your race, our main objective, I think, on race day is to make sure that you're not hungry, satisfy your hunger, and taking calories early in the morning for sure. You want to make sure that you restock your carbohydrates that were depleted overnight. So, in the morning, you definitely want to have maybe 200 to 300 calories, and definitely get fluids right away, so that you normalize your body fluids, because you do dehydrate a little bit overnight. And depending on how much time you have for the start of your race, if you're racing in the afternoon, this may not be such an issue, but to have an actual meal, you need about 3 hours before you're going to start your warm-up. So if you're racing late in the morning, you could have a breakfast early. If there's not enough time before your events, before 2 hours, take in about 400 to 600 calories, about 2 hours before you're actually going to start your warm-up. That's a pretty good number of calories to make sure that you've got enough fuel and you're not hungry, and you have energy for your race. So again, don't take in a lot of fiber. You want things that are very easy to digest, maybe a banana, maybe yogurt, what you normally eat in the morning if you tend to train in the morning. So it's important to stay hydrated and make sure you have enough calories in the morning. So if you need time before your warm up and you're finding like, oh, I really feel kind of hungry or something, you could always do something like have a sport gel and an hour before your race, or something, just a little tiny snack to make you feel more comfortable. But once you're in your warm-up phase, especially within the last hour before your start, only take in water. You don't want to really be digesting any kind of food at that point. And if you've had a sport gel just before you start your warm up or something very minimal, you should be absolutely fine going into your race. So just focus on water and staying hydrated at that point.
Can I just add in that for people who don't like eating breakfast before rowing, and I row with someone like this, the gels are a really, really good tool to have, because you kind of feel like you're drinking, not eating.
Exactly. Yes. For some people, it's just really difficult to eat in the morning. The more so if you're nervous, people don't feel like eating. So that's why things like yogurt or some kind of a shake or something that you drink and get your calories. I mean, even oatmeal. You can take oatmeal and water and some orange juice and banana and blend that together and get that. That's an old skier's recipe, but something that you can drink that you don't have to focus so much on eating. One question people often have is, what do I do between races? Because in masters regattas, oftentimes you're racing more than once a day. And if your races are 1 or 2 hours apart, the main goal is to rehydrate and to replace a little bit of carbohydrate immediately after your race. So this is where some kind of a liquid carbohydrate drink or a gel or a low fiber fruit, something like a banana, could come in really handy, that as soon as you finish your other race and you get off the water, immediately take in some calories. Even if you're going to go get another boat and go out again in 15 minutes to start another race, you want to make sure that you've got a little bit of carbohydrate and water in you after the last race. And if you're going day to day, like there could be a regatta that's 2 days or 3 days long, immediately after you finish racing, focus on recovery. Go have a good meal afterwards, but still after your last race, replace some carbohydrates, maybe drink a gel, maybe have a sport drink, whatever you like, and then go have a nice meal at night to make sure that you replenish your carbohydrates so that your stores are up, ready for the next day and ready to do it all over again.
Yeah, I personally always just take a little lunchbox. My preference is pasta, salad, but sometimes just straight bread. I'm afraid I'm a carb sort of girl, but just a spoonful now and then is really good, because if you get tired and you haven't ingested enough food, it's really hard to recover.
Yes. So I would say, nibbling all day and, like you said, little bites all day or after every race, things that you don't feel really full, but you keep putting a little bit of energy in. And especially if it's hot, the United States people who are racing right now are in tremendous heat. And that's going to take some special attention as far as extra water and staying hydrated and cool drinks. So things like frozen bananas could be really good for cooling off. But definitely lots of water and just focusing on recovery all the time as soon as you finish one race and then prep for the next one.
And a word of warning: there are people who I row with who love the jelly fruit sweets, like they're called snakes and airplanes and things. I would caution against these, even though they are made from fruit juices and they're natural sugars. I think they give you a bit of a sugar high, which then leads to a sugar low. I don't find them very helpful, except after the last race if you really want it. But then, to be honest, our group, we tend to then open the beer and the wine and start
right. New carbohydrates, right? But I think that's a good point. Is try to focus on things that are a little bit lower on the glycemic index, so they're not going to spike your sugar, and then you have a reaction to it. And by now, hopefully each athlete knows their habits and knows what affects them positively or negatively. Definitely do not try a new food. I would say within the week of a big race, I would definitely like stick to the tried and true things that you like and that you know you eat every day for training, and be super conservative.
Yeah, totally support that. Now, let's move on to talking about finishing sprints. So, at a broad level, our race comprises 4 quarters. We have a start phase. We then have the second quarter, third quarter, and then a finishing sprint as the 4th phase. My rule of thumb, which I learned from the great Harry Mahn, was do your start. Then in the second quarter, you've got to be tough on yourself. Really push yourself hard. In the third quarter, be tough on your opponents. Make it hard for them to get past you. And then you've got to do a finishing sprint. So, Marlene, what's your advice here?
Well, at this point in the race, you have to do everything possible to make your boat go as fast as you can. And I don't think if anyone is not in discomfort at this point of the race, you surely will be starting to get very uncomfortable. So first, I would say expect the discomfort and prepare for it mentally as well as in practice. But I always approached it really pretty straightforward. This is a point in the race when you are tired. You don't want anything that you have to process too carefully mentally. So like as you get farther in the race, keep things simpler and simpler. And one thing I would recommend is, when you're crossing into the 250, maybe go up 2 strokes per minute for 10 to 15 strokes. And then after that, go up 1 every 5 strokes to the finish line, and just go for it and try to get in as many strokes as you can until you get to the finish line, and be sure that you do not stop before you cross the finish line. That's a very, very common problem. It's much better to tolerate 3 or 4 more hard strokes than to stop 1 stroke before the finish line and miss the medal or qualifying for your final or something like that. So pretty basic.
Great advice there. And I would say if you're a crew that you're not yet confident that you can rate really high, you can do a slight variant on Marlene's advice on taking the rate up. Definitely take the rate up as you go into your finishing sprint, but you can alternate taking it up 1 point in rate with having power strokes. So maybe do 5s or 10s, up 1 in rate, and then the next one do same rate but increase your power. Mm-hmm. So you won't end up at quite such a high rating, because of course there is a diminishing return to extra rating, and even the most skilled crews get to a point where they can go up in rate and not go any faster.
True. I mean, we're thinking maximum we're going to have 35 strokes here in this last 250 meters. But, depending on the level of the crew, getting them, up 1 and then focus on your length, and then up 1, focus on the length. That's a good way not to get overexcited, so that you still keep the boat moving effectively, and just get up to the best efficient speed that you can. And this is something you should practice at home on your home course, and you should be really clear as a crew about what you're going to do in that last 250 meters. And if you have a coxswain, the coxswain will call it for you. If not, somebody in the boat who's in charge of the commands needs to make just like a 1-word command so that everybody knows what to do at the same time.
Yeah, my 1-word command is go. Pretty much. It's short. Yeah. I don't have much breath.
Right. No, yeah, you want to keep it simple and clear, so everybody goes up at the same stroke, or everybody knows exactly where they are and how many more we have to go. And
now, I will say that as a race tactician specialist, and I enjoy this role, you could choose, depending on your knowledge of your own crew and yourself and your skills, if you know you're a good sprinter and you can sustain a sprint really well, you could choose to sprint early, not wait for the 250 mark, maybe go at 300 meters before the line, particularly if you're the person who's looking out and doing the calls. I have a rule that no one is allowed to look out of the boat and look at the other crews except for coxswain, if it's a cox boat, and it's their job to tell you where you're at, or the person who's doing the calls in the coxless boat. So they could be going, we're fourth. And on the basis of that, and recognizing that a medal requires them to overtake someone and get to third, they could then have a license to choose to go into your sprints early. Now, there is a risk here. You could blow up and risk everything and not, what as they say, fly and die. And if you die before the line, that is a problem. So it is important that you know your crew. But for myself, I have had some unexpected race wins by taking this strategy. So I do encourage you to practice, discuss amongst yourselves whether you are comfortable with that as a strategy, and then trusting your caller to make that decision.
Well, I think there is a good advantage to, we just picked the last 250, but I think there is an advantage of doing things at odd meters, like you said, 300 meters. But at home you practice that, and you know for your particular boat, you know how long that 300 meters takes. So it is good, just like not focusing on maybe the 500 meter mark, but your crew does something at the 550 or the 600, because everybody's doing something at the 500. So it is, it's good to be creative and do things that perhaps surprise other crews, particularly if you know them. And I would encourage, if you're a highly competitive person, study your crews and your competition, so that if you have an idea, oh, they always do this, and they try to lose us in the second quarter or something, or that some crews have outstanding sprints, and there are single scullers who can pull sprints out of nowhere, no matter what. And if you know who those people are, then you know what your physiology is like. You have a sprint, or maybe you don't have a sprint. So if you don't have a good sprint, you have to win the race in the middle. So it's good to be aware of all of these things. What are your talents and what are not your talents? And focus on strengthening your strengths, knowing who you're going to come up against.
Yeah, and one last word, which is that if you do finish thinking that you could have gone harder, you could have sprinted more, discuss it after the race with your crew and adjust your race plan. It could be that your mid-race pace needs to be 1 point higher in rate. So you could be having your boat go faster through the middle part of the race and then still have enough energy left for a sprint. So don't feel that your race plan is always fixed. And remember, different crews are really different. One person different in a crew can make a ton of difference. And one of the reasons why established crews tend to do well is that they know each other and they have done a lot of racing together and a lot of practice together. And they know how they react in different situations. And that's all part of what I call racecraft. It's worth learning. It's worth discussing amongst yourselves and writing it down and trying different things.
Excellent advice. And this takes time. Absolutely. This is what practice is all about.
It is. Now let's go into talking about video analysis. Part of the Faster Masters rowing service that Marlene and I provide includes a program for crews and a program for club groups. Both of these include video analysis by ourselves as part of your paid Faster Masters program. And August is the first video analysis month. And so we're going to be asking you to send in your crew videos so that we can give you some feedback. As a consequence, what we want to talk about today is how to do video analysis so that you produce a good bit of video that is useful for your coach and for yourselves and sets you up for getting good feedback. So, Marlene, what's the first thing that people need to think about when planning an outing where they're going to get videoed?
Well, first, let's talk about if you're going to be videotaped from a launch, or you're the coach who's going to be videotaping a crew from a launch. I mean, that's a very nice way to be able to videotape so that you can get close enough. The first thing is know where the sun is and make sure that the sun is behind you, so that you're not getting glare of the sun as you're focusing on each boat or each individual rower. And make sure that you center the rower you're focusing on in the camera lens, so that it's quite clear. If you're recording a team boat, you want to make sure that you move to each seat, and if it's a sweep boat, film your port side, then film your starboard side, and be very clear about which athlete you're focusing on. First, what I like to see when I get video material to look at is I like to see a side shot of the athlete with the camera at the level of the pin or at the level of the oarlock, so that it's really a 90 it's looking straight at the athlete, straight side shot at the level of the pin. This way you can see how they're positioned in the boat, and you can assess them looking at the side or from the horizontal plane, and you can see how their body is moving and sequencing. I also like to get a direct stern shot. So you bring the launch right behind the stern, and then you follow the crew, and it's nice if you have a driver to do this, but if you can get fairly close to the crew, that you really get up close, that will help you do a much better video review. Make sure your finger doesn't cover the lens of the camera. I know that sounds really basic, but it's really easy with an iPad or an iPhone or smartphone. It is really easy to put your finger over the lens and you don't even realize that you've done it. So make sure, you might even want to make a little mark with it. I know at least with an iPhone, if you video, it's better to video landscape view to get a better video coverage. And also the volume buttons, which when they're positioned up on the top right, you can start and stop the video using the volume buttons. And it's a lot easier to make sure you don't put your finger over the camera. And the other thing I would caution is make sure that you're recording, because if you're talking to your crew and then you hit the button to record and then you hit it off by accident, sometimes you think you hit record, but you stopped it, and then you videotape the bottom of the boat. And then so definitely check whatever your little signal is on your camera, that it is indeed recording, and you're not turning it on when it's in the bottom of the boat and turning it off when you think you're recording someone. That's fairly easy to do.
I have seen a lot of videos of my coach's leg.
I have seen a lot of bottom of the boats in my day too, and it happens. And so having some little system, it depends what you're using as a camera, whether you're using a smartphone or something else. But if you are videotaping from land, and I should say recording, because we're not actually taping since it's digital. But say you're two single scullers, you're two friends who scull together, you can get really simple footage of yourself just taking it from sitting in the single. One person can be in the single, hold the smartphone, the other person rows by, you get 5 or 6 strokes as they go by, then give it to the other person, and you just get a row by, and this is enough for you to have a little progress check, or it's enough for us to see quite a bit of footage with you in motion. If you have somebody recording you from the shore, come right up to the tip of the dock or up to the beach and row away from that person. And then if a person is on the dock, you can row by. Just try to row by as closely as you can and have them follow you. You can still get good footage that can give you good feedback. One of the things I really like is if you have a bridge, if somebody can go up on a bridge and record you rowing under the bridge, that's a beautiful view to get of your blade work and your angles. So not everybody has that, but if you do, that is a nice way to look at the stroke.
Some clubs have a balcony as well. So if you're, instead of rowing by
exactly,
row by the dock and have someone film from higher up. And of course, all those lovely videos of the racing at Henley Royal Regatta are with the drone footage is a really good illustration of how an elevated shot gives you good insight.
Yes, I haven't experimented with the drone yet, but it's beautiful footage. And you have some other ideas, don't you?
I do. I've got a few things just to add in terms of your preparation for the video outing. Tell your crew to wear light colored clothing. Please do not wear black. If you do want to wear black, wear a row suit with a stripe that goes under your arm or a stripe that goes down your leggings, because it's really hard to see how your legs and your back are moving differently if you are wearing dark clothing. So think about what you're going to wear ahead of time. If you're the person doing the videoing for a crew boat, aim to have 3 complete strokes for every athlete. It then allows, because we all want to row our best and we want to look good in the video analysis. But, you know, if you have one fluff stroke, you've then got at least 2 ones to recover. And your coach will probably say to you, oh, that was just a poor stroke you did. Whereas if you do 3 and you're making the same error every time, it's probably an indication that it's something to work on technically. And the last thing to add is firm pressure. Doing your video at light pressure is not going to give a really good indication about how you actually row. So try to do it at low rate, firm pressure, so that you have the best possible chance of showing the coach how you are making the power to propel your piece of the boat. Now, we've also got a special offer. During the month, I got contacted by the nice people at Oar Inspired. Now, these guys make a mount for a GoPro camera. And the GoPro is, let me get this right. How do I? Hey, Marlene, am I sharing my screen? No, I'm not. Here we go. Share my screen. Share. Here we go. So, Oar Inspired camera mount works like this. Here is a picture of a camera. It's the little GoPro camera on the top there, and it's on a long pole, which is mounted on the rear deck of this crew. So let's take a little close-up look at the actual equipment itself. It has a regular thread and swivel head for you to mount the camera. So you can adjust this to point in whatever direction you want. It then has an adjustable bezel here, which allows you to change the extended height of the camera so that you can have it higher or lower. Lower down, it has these 3 tripod legs, each of which ends in a suction cup on an adjustable hinged foot so that you can set it up to fit the exact angle of the deck on your boat. And I think this photo illustrates it quite nicely. So you can see here, this is a curved deck. This foot looks like it's set up somewhat lower than the other. And they've also put a careful twine here to attach it back into the boat, just in case there's a little mishap. Now, the nice people here at Oar Inspired have very kindly offered a discount coupon to any of our listeners who wish to go and buy their mounts. They have 2 different models, one for 4s and 8s and one for singles and pairs or doubles. The reason being the width of your stern canvas is different. And of course, the height elevation needed in order to see the whole crew is somewhat different. And you can get a 20% discount using the coupon code Rowing Chat, and you'll find the link to buy and the code information in the show notes below. So, Marlene, we're back to the end of the show.
That was
Quick
fast.
reminder.
That was fast.
Time flies when we're having fun. Quick reminder, fastermastersrowing.com. Go to the programs page if you want to look at getting some video analysis of your crew. It is only in the crew or the club program. It is not included in the magazine or the individual program. If you desperately want video analysis, do approach us. And if enough people say they do and they're on the individual program, we may make it as an extra product that you can buy as a one-off. But tell us if that's what you think you'd like. Any last thoughts, Marlene?
Well, for those people who are going to be racing their championship races this month, we wish everybody good results and good racing. And I think we'll see everybody in September. And do check out Faster Masters. We're going to be putting up our August content, our August issue, as of the 1st of August. So we will surprise you. There are lots of good things coming up this month.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Till next time, everybody, please leave us a review or a rating. Please, could each one of you tell one friend about Faster Masters Rowing Radio as a podcast? We would very much like to grow our listener base, and it's up to you. If you like what you hear, we would ask you respectfully to share it with your friends. Just hit share right now and flick it out to one person who you think might enjoy this too.
Rebecca, could I add one thing just before we go? For the people who are interested in the Faster Masters program, if they would like to see what is in the program right now, when they look at join a program and the subscription, if they click on expand all, it will actually show the titles of each thing that is in each module, the training, the performance. It'll show you the article or the video, so you can actually see what's in there right away.
That's a very, very good reminder. And remember that the information changes every month, and that at any one time you get 2 months worth of programming. So if you sign up today, you'll instantly get 2 months worth of training programs. And remember our guarantee, which is that if you cancel within 15 days and you don't like it and you decide it's not for you, we will guarantee you for the August Faster Masters Rowing Radio from Marlene and myself. Till next time, bye-bye.